Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. I have mostly missed the whole Warhammer 40k collaboration thing for two reasons. First, I generally don't look into collaborations too much because I am very much historically interested in ships, and collaborations tend to lead to some funny results. And I have just been too busy with other things, especially health related in the family, so I haven't had an awful lot of time the past weeks to do anything. But a couple of you have asked, and it made sense because you see them all around. Could you look into one of the Warhammer 40k ships, specifically the Cross of Dorn? And I'm not going to go into the Warhammer 40k lore because I just don't know enough about it to give it justice. So we're going to treat this as every other ship out in the game here, and we'll just see how that is different, because this is an Odin, a tier 8 German premium battlecruiser. And the Odin is a very, very good ship. So, what have they done to it? So if we compare the Odin and the Cross of Dorn, the first thing that stands out is that the ship skills are different. Well, that is the only thing that stands out, because we'll look at the rest later, but she's got the exact same stats. So instead of the sonar, we get a specific Warhammer ship skill. And this is an interesting one, because this will increase your AP penetration power by 25% and HE damage by 10% for 45 seconds. And you get to use it twice in the game. Now, the Odin does not have the world's largest guns. If we have a very quick look, the Odin, and as such the Cross of Dorn, have 305mm guns. Now, these are 305mm German guns, and they are very, very good. And perfectly capable of citadelling the deck plating of any battleship she meets at tier. However, you lose the sonar and the precise aim, and you actually lose a level of the secondary overload. In return, you get to use it twice. Now, the Odin did not have the secondary overload skill originally. The secondary overload was, I think, introduced with the German Battlecruiser line. And then they retrofitted it to some of the existing battleships. And the Odin got one use of the secondary overload 2, which increases your reload speed and range by 25%, compared to the Cross of Dorn, which gets 2 uses of the 1, which gives you 20% for 15 seconds. So it's not quite as good, but you get to use it twice. And yes, the Cross of Dorn gets a defensive AA, but it's only a def AA 1. Still, it's a def AA. Now, the Odin does not have bad AA. And a lot of German premium ships tend to go down the AA route. So that is interesting as well. But we are losing out on a couple of things, most namely the sonar, which makes it a lot more difficult to push into torpedo threats. The precise aiming, which makes it a little bit more difficult to fight at long range at the onset of the battle. And in return, you get a couple of other things. Because the Odin has a very specific playstyle. She's actually got a relatively small hit point pool and not the best armor. I mean, it's still German armor, but it's not the best armor in the game. So you do have to be a bit careful with this thing. You can't just go, no matter how many skulls you stick on the bow of it, you can't just go face first through the wall in these ships. What is special about the Odin? First of all, she is reasonably maneuverable, and she is having a set of pretty nice main guns, actually, the 305s. Kind of like the Scharnhorst at tier 7, but you do need to know how to use them. So they are small caliber, but they do hit pretty hard, especially if you can target the deck with them. And with an 18-second base reload at 9 guns, you get to fire them quite frequently. But this is a German battlecruiser. It's all about the secondaries. So we have a twin set of 150mm main secondaries with a 6.9 kilometer base range, and these things, unlike the actual tech tree battlecruiser line, can't fire high explosive. They only fire armor piercing, which is good because this is what you want to use against destroyers. She also has a set of very, very funny 128mm auto secondaries. These are, I think, the Friedrich der Großes or der Großer Kurfürst's auto secondaries, so they're definitely from a higher tier. These things have a 6 kilometer base range. You get a lot of them, and they reload pretty quickly. These auto secondaries are hilarious on the Odin. They're great fun. And at the time when she came out, very, very uncharacteristically for a German battle cruiser, battleship, or anything German really, that wasn't a destroyer, she has long-range torpedoes with 6.9 kilometers and a pretty fast reload. So the Odin has a pretty specific playstyle to her. And that playstyle is mostly to stay at range in the beginning, but once you spot an opening, just go in and absolutely wreck things as you do. She is a relatively small ship. She's decently maneuverable. The guns are laid out forward biased, so you have 2 turrets forward, which means you can go bow in, do a decent amount of damage with the mains, and then shred things with your secondaries and torpedoes. The AA isn't bad either, so the defensive AA skill on the Odin actually does make some sort of sense. It protects you a little bit from carrier strikes. Still, I personally would have preferred the sonar, and the concealment, the base concealment, is pretty reasonable. But if you look at the ship itself, it isn't actually that large, and as such, it's a really nifty tier 8 battlecruiser that is just hilariously fun to play. So let's look at the setup. In terms of elite bonus, there's only one choice really, and that's to get the secondary battery reload time down, because this is a German battlecruiser, it's all about the secondaries. You can get yourself a little bit of a boost to the armor plating, but I definitely wouldn't personally, because she doesn't have a great hit point pool. So this is not a ship that you can tank a lot in. It's more about getting in there, killing a ship or two, and then getting out, recovering some health, and then doing it all over again. Or breaking through somewhere, just when you see a chance, just spewing gunfire and torpedoes everywhere. So improving the secondaries is definitely a thing to go. Now this is a collaboration ship, so this is a perma camo. You can't change that camo. This is the Odin's historical camo. And that is a bit unfortunate, because the Odin's historical camo is unfortunately not very good. It is the standard battleship camo, which means you get main battery range and dispersion, which is kind of not what you want. We'll look at it in a second, but you're stuck with it on the Cross of Dorn. And we have already talked about the special ship skill giving you 25% extra main gun AP, which can lead to some hilarious results at times. Setup-wise, you do get access to the German unique secondary module, and you should absolutely take it. This one gives you 10% range and 10% dispersion, both on the manual and the auto secondaries. Keep in mind that this thing is rocking top tier auto secondaries. These auto secondaries are very, very fun. Other than that, I am sailing with propulsion, and I'm actually sailing with steering here, because while you can use concealment, I personally prefer to play the ship more aggressively. But it's absolutely viable to use concealment. I'm just so used to playing Odin with steering, because that was before concealment sort of became meta. That I just like playing a ship like this. But you can absolutely play with concealment as well, and it's very valid to do so. Now I have stuck Franz von Hipper onto this ship for 3 very specific skills, for 4 very specific skills actually. The armament repair expert is a bit of a surprise, but it's also surprisingly useful, because the German ships tend to have an awful lot of secondaries, and these secondaries get shot off quite quickly because they're nowhere near as well armored as the main guns. So for all intents and purposes, having the repair time, so you don't need to burn a damage control, to getting your secondaries back online, is a really good skill to have, even at the expense of things like the battlefield support. The second skill that's really good on von Hipper is the Sixth Sense, because it shows you how many ships are targeting you, especially on something like an Odin, which is not the most... Well, it's still a German battlecruiser, it's still pretty sturdy, but it doesn't have the largest hit point pool, so knowing when it's go time, how many people are actually looking at you and targeting you, is a really, really good thing to have. I have not actually, for this particular setup, taken the recon skill and the marksman skill, because, you know, the Cross of Dorn has lost all the relevant ship skills. However, I am sailing with Adrenaline Rush rather than Extinguisher. It's just for the fun of it, really. If you're running a little low on hit points, everything you have shoots faster. And again, these auto secondaries are really ticking up the damage. The obvious one is the Close Quarters Combat Expert Plus with better dispersion, and the APCS Plus for better penetration on the main guns, combined with the Cross of Dorn's specific ship skill, always makes sense. You could take the Giant Hunter or the Horizontal Protection Expert. I haven't looked up the numbers, but it's a German Battlecruiser, so Horizontal Protection does make sense. And that is that. Let's have a very, very quick look at the camo, because I mentioned that earlier. Now, the historical camo that you see here on the Odin, which is the pretty one, has the standard, unfortunately, the standard battleship skill set, or buff set. The alternative anime meme camo that makes your ship look like something that you would combine with red velvet in certain kind of establishments is, unfortunately, by the stats much better. Because this thing gives you both range on both the main and the auto secondaries and on the torpedoes, which is a significant boost to a ship that is, well, for all intents and purposes, secondary focused. But you don't get that ship skill set on the Cross of Dorn. So be aware that if you want to decide between the two, the Cross of Dorn does not have access to this alternate camo, which does give you the better stats. However, I personally wouldn't be seen dead in it, so Cross of Dorn it is. With the big, and she doesn't look completely terrible. I mean, there's a huge golden skull at the front of the ship, but other than that, that's it. Now you can actually, and again, I have not done this because I don't know which one of the characters would actually be the right one to put in here, but they do now come with the last voice update from 7.2 with their own voice lines. So if you want to get the full Warhammer 40k experience, you can get that. I haven't done it myself, but I'm just mentioning that that's there. And if you're wondering where that is, because I keep being asked where that is, it's here in the sound settings. You can go with the standard voice mod, or you can use the so the standard is the national voices, I think, at this point. Or you can pick one of the specific voices that you want to hear while you are playing the ship. All right, so Cross of Dorn, we'll play a single round because there's really you can't put a standard camo on it. So I figured I'll just give you the full experience there. And I also did not necessarily want to be sailing something that looks like this. Let's go. And we are playing on everybody's favorite map, Center Control on Golden Channel. We're bottom tier against Izumo, Richelieu, Wichita, Double Lightning, and Kagero. This is where the sonar would have been kind of useful, but well, we'll deal with it as it comes. No aircraft carrier, so no real use for our defensive AA, and as such, like I said, this is a battle cruiser. This is not something you just sail straight up into the enemy team with, because you simply don't have the hit points for it. So a narrow spread on the torpedoes. Torpedo angles are also very, very good. You don't need to give broadside on this thing to get torpedoes away. And remember that if you are fighting against it, it has a significantly longer range than your normal German battleships. But with the introduction of the German battle cruiser line, that isn't as surprising as it used to be. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to park myself next to that island, because there are 4 destroyers out there. Well, I'm not counting the bot, but there are 3 destroyers out there. And while the Odin is, or in this case the Cross of Dorn, is perfectly capable of dealing with destroyers, I have the distinct disadvantage of not having a sonar. So I do need to be a little bit careful here. And regardless, we'll see what we can do at long range, which is your standard Odin gameplay. Bow in. We do have the Richelieu and the Izumo in range. Richelieu is the more dangerous ship, so let's get some shots. So let's see if I can lob that over the island, but I think most of them went into the island, actually. And we are going to slow down, because we don't want to rush forward. Izumo immediately starts shooting at me. Let's see if we can return the favor. Hello, Mr. Izumo. Funny button up, shots out. Not getting the good dispersion here. But yep, I can totally return the favor. Yeah, there come all the torpedoes, and I do have to play extra careful because of the lack of sonar. So I do have to actually watch out with enemy torpedoes where they're going. And while keeping hammering on the Izumo, that's just a bot Chung Mu. I don't really care about it. I can help out, I guess. Not gonna be using the secondary overload for it. But let's see if we can get one more salvo off at the Izumo with the skill enabled. The shots out, and there come even more torpedoes, and that's sort of the problem here. Shot on one his guns off. That I don't have the timely forewarning, so I'm actually taking 2 torpedoes here from whatever that was. Hello, Mr. Kaguro. 150mm out, and that's the secondary overload. And I do have the main guns ready, but the precision isn't going to be there to get more than a glancing hit. But that's really not what it's all about. Kaguro panics, Kaguro smokes, and I can't go in harder because I don't have the sonar. I don't know if there are Kaguro torpedoes in the water. I could go ham on these people, because my team, as in typical Golden Channel fashion, decides that it doesn't want to have anything to do with the capture circle, despite the enemy team holding it. So I am confined to my position here, and I've got 5 people shooting at me, simply on the simple fact that well, I am the only ship I'm the most forward ship here of all of them. So another salvo out at the Izumo, and I'm saving my second. My second power up for later. And there's one of the enemy destroyers has make his way around it, because it's like we're holding the capture circle anyway. Benson is finally making his way in, but without support it's not really a great help. And I think once my heal comes off cooldown, it's actually go time, because the enemy team is mostly relatively low on hit points at this stage. So secondary overload up, and go gadget. Still not having the sonar is not a great help. Let's see if we can hurt the Izumo a little bit again. Yeah, that wasn't bad. And we're now pushing into the Izumo and the Richelieu, and the enemy team is now losing capture control. They're still ahead on points, despite the fact that they're killed down, because they've held it for longer. But now they have lost their support around their battleship base, and these 2 battleships are alone, and this is where the Odin shines. So torpedoes out at the Izumo, and she is distracted. The lightning is on 2 low hit points to do anything. Richelieu is helping out, but they're all running into each other now there in a panic to get away. And this is where you go and shout very loud, and the Benson is having fun as well. So this is where you go shout very loud and say, hello! See if we can get the lightning killed. I'm gonna turn my... never mind, Benson took him down already. And I have another heal coming up, but yeah, that Izumo is dead, which means we're now just have to unload at the enemy Richelieu. And if you are shooting with... yeah, that's what you can do to Richelieu. He can hurt you back, but if you're using the secondaries, the main secondaries, just be aware that you need to get your shots out at the bow and stern section. So Richelieu is backing up. That's why I'm sort of targeting a little ahead of center line to make sure I get the shots in, and that should be a dead Richelieu for all intents and purposes. And I'm not getting the kill. The Benson gets the kill. I have been robbed, I tell you, robbed. So while I'm switching to the high explosive, lamenting the missing out on the kill on the Richelieu, yeah, there is still one destroyer around somewhere. Again, I am completely missing my sonar here, which would have made hunting that destroyer a lot more easy. We've clearly won the game. So, Cross of Dorn, is it a good ship? Yes, it's an Odin. In my personal opinion, it's not quite as good as the Odin, because while the special skill is really nice, and as you can see, with the skill up, you can do a lot of damage at range. The Odin is not a ranged ship, and at ranges that you're fighting, it mostly doesn't matter all that much if you are having if you're having that skill available, especially if you get someone like von Hipper with the APCS skill. It does not matter all that much, and it's still a good ship. It's still a really good ship while we're running into these lightning torpedoes. I'm probably going to die from it. Yeah, it's still a good ship, but I would prefer the actual Odin simply because... let's see if we can get a torpedo hit on him. Simply because the skill set, in my opinion, is somewhat better. The The precise aim is good for the opening set of the game. The sonar is really good for situations like this, where you have a torpedo soup to deal with, and it makes pushing into it just so much easier because you can actually spot the torpedoes, and because you're not going to be able to get the torpedo detection skill on level 2 on the commander if you're using someone like von Hipper. That said, both ships are very, very good. So if you got your hands on one of those, congratulations, you have an Odin, a funny looking one with a slightly different skill set, but you still have an Odin, which is still a really good ship. And yeah, that's all there is to say about it, really. So excellent ship to have, a very dangerous ship to play against in the right hands. And that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.